Welcome to Afros and Audio's Black History Month interview series. My name is Talib Jasir, founder and CEO of Afros and Audio Podcast Festival and the Vanguard Podcast Network. I'm excited to spotlight 29 outstanding indie podcast creatives and professionals who answer the call to be a part of this series. My guest today is Dr. Vibe. Welcome and thank you for being here. How are you today?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for taking time out of your positive, productive schedule and your community for taking time to share with me. And I want to say thank you for the honor and pleasure. I am blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, solution for someone's problem, Blackalicious. And I'm Black because I'm beautiful, and I'm beautiful because I'm Black.
All right, right on. I love it. So my first question out the gate, Dr. Vibe, is
Mhm.
how'd you get the name Dr. Vibe?
Great opening question. It's funny. I've been doing this for a minute, and it just seems the last 2 years or so, people going, how did you get that name? So here's the story. Many years ago, when I had hair, I was actually the second African Canadian to be hired by Adidas Canada in their offices. So I was doing inside sales for all their independent soccer accounts across Canada. And at the same time, I was a urban music marketing rep for Universal Music part-time. So a lot of people say, wow, dream jobs, like you're working in footwear athletic company and also music. And I was one of the first three people in Canada who look like me to be doing major music marketing for a major music label. So daytime Adidas, evening time Universal. So one year while I was at Adidas, there was a Christmas party and I was getting into the music. And one of the footwear managers, yes, I remember his name, Stuart Smith, said, "You got the vibe. You're Dr. Vibe." There you go. And I just kept it.
That's a great story. Well, thank you for sharing it with our listeners and folks that are watching this. It's great to know that story because it's just been Dr. Vibe, and now we have some context around it.
Sure.
That's
Absolutely.
awesome.
Anything to serve.
Absolutely. All right. So, can you share with us the journey and the evolution of the Dr. Vibe show over the past 12 years? Congratulations, first of all, for 12 years.
It's actually more than that.
More
So
than that. I
it
believe it.
feels
I
like
believe it.
120, but
What
so
makes
to end,
it so
go
yeah,
ahead.
what makes it such a unique platform for Black voices?
Wow. So a little bit of context. So when I got started, all I had was this microphone. Maybe podcasters know this is the old blue snowball. All I had was a microphone, a laptop, and a dream. That's it. And at the time, I'll shorten the story because I know time constraints. There was a African Canadian bookstore called Burke's Bookstore in Toronto, and I always used to go there. And after I finished university, saying, "Gosh, I'm never going to use this stuff," I always used to go there, and there was this book here called "Black Men, Obsolete, Single, and Dangerous" by Haki Matabuti. And the subtitle is The African American Family in Transition. And I said, okay, pulled the book off the shelf, read it one chapter, and then took it home and read the whole book in one night, which I had never done in university, by the way. And I said, okay, some way, somehow, I'm going to do something online at the time to provide African Canadian men a safe and brave place where they could express their heart, their minds, because, and still even a lot these days, a lot of African Canadian men and Black men, African men, period, around the world were portrayed as entertainers or dealing with the criminal justice system. And I said, some way, somehow, I'm going to just get started. And I said, okay, let's just start. So went to our dining room table. My co-host at the time, we did our first show about Michael Vick and the dogs. So if people don't know about that, go in your search engine and here put in Michael Vick and the dogs. That's how long I've been doing this journey. And it just started. And after a while, I said, people are just going to get tired of, especially listening to me, because I didn't think I was all that entertaining and informative. So we took a break and came back. And I believe that many things in our lives have a birth, death, and resurrection. So we started saying, okay, well, who can we bring on the show? What about people that we know? So we started doing that. So I used to go out to like dinner parties and put my laptop in the middle of the table and we just have conversations. And then we went to people that I didn't know And then I said, well, I want to just this internet thing. It's global. How can I be global? So I reached out to a gentleman named Ray Ortega, who at the time had a show called The Podcaster Studio. And he was good with SEO because I put shows about podcasting. His came up first. And, I'm lazy at times too. I want the easy route. And spoke with him. He changed my mindset about doing a show. Notice I'm not saying podcast because what I do is a show. If you're serious, it's a show. Changed my mindset in 24 hours. And he said, if you want to be really recognized, you want people to think about you first when it comes to, at that time, African Canadian men who do online shows. And then I said, well, I want to do global. So he introduced me then to a gentleman named Mike Phillips in South Carolina. And at the time, Mike had 25 years of audio engineering experience. And I'm one of these people that if I need to get somewhere and there's someone who's even done it one day longer than myself, they're the expert. So I said to Mike, I want to from my house do these shows around the world. He says, Dr. Vibe, if you want to do that, you're going to need to get a mixer. I said, Mike, the only mixers I know is when I go to a club and when I go to a concert. But again, 25 years experience to zero for me. Listen to him. He's back and forth on Skype for about 6 hours. Bought my first mixer, and that's a short form. I could go on and on, but that's the foundation of the journey.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And you're so right. The point and purpose of community in a lot of ways is to accelerate the process when trying to figure out something that somebody can just say, just push that button over there and you're good. It's very important to make those connections and speak to the right people at the right time. You may not know that it's the right inside of that, but
Yeah.
but often it is, especially when it's aligned with the journey.
Well, and I just want to add to that. And everyone uses the word connections. I like to develop relationships.
Mhm.
So with Mike, with Ray, I said, hey, is there anything I can do to pay you back? And said, hey, whenever you're sharing your story, just mention our names. No problem. So connections are good for me. Relationships are better because especially in the online show game, yeah, it's nice to be known, but what do people say about you when you're not there? I'm not saying,
Absolutely.
I'm just saying.
You're absolutely right. I love that. So, in what ways has your show empowered, enlightened, and entertained your listeners, and how do you measure its impact?
Well, it's a great question. It's taken me to a lot of different areas. Like one of the things is I also am the co-host and co-producer of the only online show in the world for dads and fathers that's sponsored by Dove Men+Care. And we've been doing that now for 3 years. And we look at the matrix and we, over the last 3 years, just that show has reached out directly and indirectly to over 100,000 fathers around the world. And then it also has provided me opportunities. I'm a little bit different. People say speaking engagements, but I like to call them sharing engagements. I was doing a session a few days ago, and it was for Black History Month. And most of the audience didn't look like me, which doesn't bother me, but I just shared some of my story. And when they had their Q&A, there was a South Asian lady who stood up and said, you know, I'm so nervous, but this is the right time. There's a lot of hurt that I've had in my journey, but I want to just share some of my story here because of what you've done or what you've shared. You don't forget moments like that. In a way, I was doing a live podcast. I was doing a sharing session with a bunch of people in the audience. And she said, you know what? I'm South Asian. I really believe in helping the Black community, and you've just inspired me. And if there's any way I can help, please tell me how I can help.
Wow.
Right. And then
Yeah.
you also have those moments when you're hosting a show, when you hear that moment, I've never been asked that question before. And then they go into it. And for me, it's just providing a safe embrace space, really and truly. That's really, I don't do interviews, as I said to my esteemed friend across the screen here. I don't do interviews. I do conversations. So hopefully that answers your question.
It does. It does. Thank you. And so, as you just mentioned, the Dove partnership that you've done for 3 years, how did that, for people who are interested in making partnerships like this, and obviously it's a lot to do with Dr. Vibe in general, and the person that you are and the person that you showed up to be, right, in
Mhm.
a lot of ways. Could you tell us more about your role as a co-host and co-producer of the world's only online show for dads and fathers, sponsored by Dove Men Care? How did this partnership come about, and what has been its impact?
So to be proper, it's Dove Men Plus Care. So I want to stay on brand, Dove Men Plus Care. Well, I'm very passionate about fatherhood. And at the time, I was working at Canada's only father-focused family center, the only one in Canada. And one of the things people may not know, there's something called Google Alerts. And I have Google Alerts for dads and fathers. So we're going back, it's about 2020 or 2019. I think it's one day I was sitting at my desk where I was at the time at that Fatherhood Family Center, checked out my Google Alerts, and I saw something under dad saying world premiere documentary about dads at the Toronto International Film Festival. So I'm based here in Toronto. So every year we have the Toronto International Film Festival in September. So I kept on reading. I missed the premiere by one day. So decision, because a lot of life for me is moments and decisions. I had a decision to make. Do I read on or just say, oh, I'll just check it out next year? I read on and I found out I missed it by one day. I said, no problem. Let me go a little bit further. Now, most good press releases will have the contact name and the contact information of the person behind the press release. So I had this in my lap. What do I do? What is the decision? I called that person. I said, hey, I'm so and so. I do work in this space. I'm so sorry. I wish I could have caught the premiere last night. She said, hey, you know what? It was really last minute, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, by the way, the documentary was produced by Bryce Howard, who is the daughter of Ron Howard. Just want to add that. And she said, well, no problem. And I said, hey, and I went in for my big ass. I said, hey, if is there any way I could work with Dove Men Plus Care? Now that representative that I was speaking with at the time is a representative from a company called Edelman, which is one of the largest PR companies in the world that does the PR for Dove Men Plus Care and all the Dove brands. And she said, no, can't, no, nothing available right now. I said, okay, is there a list or anything that I could get on? No, not really. I said, look, can I send you some of the stuff I've done with fathers online? She said, yes. So I always go in with at least 3 asks. And she said yes to that. I said, oh, great. Can I follow up with you in 3 months? She said yes to that also. Sent her the stuff. 2 months later to the day on a Friday afternoon, she calls up and says, hey, Dr. Vibe, would you like to work with Dove Men Plus Care? I said, no, I got better things to do. No, it's a waste of my time. Of course, I said, sure. Said, okay, got a meeting the following Monday morning at 11 o'clock in the morning. Said, all right, no problem. I asked, who am I going to be meeting with? So she gave me the names. I researched them on LinkedIn, found out what they're all about, etc. We had the meeting on the Monday morning. They grilled me, and these were younger people. They grilled me for about 40, 45 minutes. And at the end, they said, we can, and this is done by phone. And if people don't believe me, I actually have a copy of the audio recording, document. And they said, well, you're really passionate about fathers and fatherhood. That was a win. Because if they can feel me over a phone without seeing me, that's great. And they said, hey, we'd love you to do this cross-country project. I said, well, look, I'm only a person of one, but a member of an organization that's been Canada's national fatherhood organization for 25 years. Would you like to get the meeting with them? Great. And they then asked me, do you have any questions for us? I said, yeah, I got a question for you. You 3 young ladies with Edelman, you work with Dove Men Care. Yes, we do. I said, what keeps you up at night working with Dove Men Plus Care? The phone was silent for 45 seconds because they'd never been asked that before. And they said, that's a really good question. I said, yes, because I want to know what your pain points are because I want to help you solve your challenges. So everything they listed, I said, hey, our organization can help you with that. So subsequent to that, there were a few more meetings and the relation continues now into our 4th year.
That's awesome. What a great story. And also, it says so much about your preparedness to step into a space that is always, I mean, we could live for the next million years, and fatherhood is still a very important issue, topic, and need of our societies. And so to be already working in the space
Mhm.
and then to be able to say, I know what y'all got, but I feel like I also know what y'all need
You have
from,
to ask. You have to
yes,
ask,
yes.
right? And I got to give huge shout out to Mario and Nicole Armstrong, because I wouldn't be anywhere close to sharing any of this without them. And there are others, but he has been instrumental as a guide for me for the last 8, 9 years. And he's based in Bmore.
Nice. All right. That's awesome. I want to talk about Toronto and Canada
Mhm.
and the content creation and or the podcasting space, especially from your perspective. How have you seen it grown? What are some of the things that you feel like there could still be some support in and or improvement when it comes to that?
It's certainly grown, and it's actually ironic you mentioned that, because I got a call from someone about a week ago and they said, "You're still doing this?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Like, I remember when you used to have that white microphone and used to go do this." I said, "Yeah, and I haven't quit." So I'd certainly seen it grown. It's easier now than ever to get into this game, but it still takes work. And there's more competition. And that's where you have to say, what can I do different? How can I keep engaged with my audience? Because at the end of the day, when you do this stuff, it's not about you, family, it's about the audience. Because without an audience, you don't, it's all by yourself. So it's definitely got more competitive. There's more out there, but there's still more room, because I think last check, and don't quote me 100%, there's over like 3 million listed podcasts out there, but less than 400 to 500,000 are active. So you really got to take a look and say, are you willing to do the work? Like anyone who comes and says, I'd like to do this, and I say, okay, do 10 shows and come back to me. Because then you'll see what it tastes. Because most people just see the finished product. They don't see what goes on behind the scenes. So when they've done the grunt work, and for me, it's not grunt work anymore, it's heart work. And they really say, you know what? And also, don't do it for money. But yes, I do have that Dove Men+Care thing, but I didn't do it for money. I just did it to serve and provide a safe and brave space and educate individuals. And like I had, I don't know where it is, but I'll pull up something, actually, just something I wanted to share. This is what I encourage our Black podcasters or online broadcasters. Every show you do should do one of these things. Okay. Am I allowed to share this? Okay.
Please.
Every show that you do should at least do one of these things. This is my opinion. Either make people laugh, people cry, people think, people groan, educate them, or entertain them. If you can hit a touch point of one of those every time that you go online, you're on the right track. Just a thought.
No, that's great. And you're very intuitive because that was going to be my next question to you. Advice for podcasters. And I'm still curious about the Canadian scene. And
Yeah,
is it,
absolutely.
yeah, is there work that you do specifically that kind of supports and encourages more Black Canadian voices, Black
Yeah.
African Canadian voices?
Yeah, there's more out there. We need to and be more collective on that. There's a great organization called Black Canadian Content Creators that you may or may not be aware of. And
Yes,
they're
Shirley
Shirley,
Joseph.
yeah,
Hmm.
she's doing fantastic stuff. We still need to be more together. We're still in too many silos. And I'm going to be totally honest here. When I first started doing this, I couldn't get people from my own country who look like me on my show. And early on in my journey, I was at a crossroads saying, you know what? No one's coming on my show, but they're African Americans who want to come on my show. So I went where I was loved digitally. And I kept on going. Now the love is coming from a lot of African Canadians. But because I think one of the reasons why is because we're so close to your country, just a line in our geography, 49th parallel, people still want, and I think it's a lot of countries, if you make it in America, then you get consideration. And you know, a lot, and that's not only an African Canadian thing, it's a Canadian thing a lot of times. but we're slowly but surely building up the marketplace. And I think that, again, we have to collaborate. And because I'm a firm believer, if you work together, you win together. Just a
Second
thought.
that. Oh yeah, it's absolutely true. So I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Again, when we're in America, right, we tend to have a one-sided idea and thought about everything else that's happening. We generalize the world based on
Yeah,
our Western,
exactly.
yeah, beliefs, but there is something to be said about the experiences of others and understanding some of those barriers that still exist, whether it's mindset or infrastructure. It's important to acknowledge it so that we can do all that we can, each other from your side and on our side, because at the end of the
Absolutely.
day, it's still us.
Absolutely. We have more in common than we don't. Right. And as I said, I remember early on in my journey, I did a Skype conversation with a Black Jamaican in Japan. That's way back. So there are no barriers. I want to encourage people, think global. Think global. I'm a living, breathing example. Still to this day, at least half my audience is in your country, the US. Like the latest collaborations I've had that have expanded my reach are both from US platforms.
Yeah, it makes sense. And with that, it also, for me, at least it says that there is opportunity and there is room for something because the more they see it, Dr. Vibe, we got to just go with it. You're the possibility in a lot of ways. And the more that they see that it is possible, the hope and the goal is that they will step into it as well.
Well, I just want to build on that. It's interesting because the sharing session I did last week for this Chamber of Commerce, it was titled Black History Month, Purpose and Possibilities. I love that. Purpose, what's your purpose? And when you're focused on your purpose, the possibilities are just endless. So purpose and possibilities. I just wanted to tag on what you just shared there, the purpose and possibilities. But you can have your purpose and you can have your passion. But as Mario taught me a long time ago, make sure your purpose and your passion is aligned with who you are. Very
Absolutely.
important
Oh,
alignment.
yeah. We can be the trajectory of who we are forever if we're not
Absolutely.
careful. Thank you for sharing that. Based on your experience with sponsorships and partnerships,
Mhm.
you successfully navigated those brand sponsorships. With what strategies would you suggest for podcasters looking to attract and maintain meaningful partnerships?
Um, it's not all about you, it's about them. Right? We all have the greatest thing in the world. We know it's the best thing in the world, but at the end of the day, it's about them. Second of all, uh, again, taught this by Mario that if you're looking for sponsorships, if you're going to a brand, and I just got off a call about an hour ago about this, saying, I don't know what to, and say, okay, what products and services does your audience purchase? And once you find that out by doing a survey, I'll say that a second time, then you'll find out, okay, so this is what my audience uses. Okay, that's the brands that you can start looking for that either sell, manufacture, distribute those products because you're aligned. My audience uses this. So for example, say you find out through surveys that your your audience loves electric cars. Okay, so maybe you can approach companies that make electric cars because there's an alignment there. Just an example.
Absolutely. And one other thing I'd love for you to touch on, if possible, now, your brand partnership out the gate, Dove Men+Care,
Mhm.
that's a huge brand.
Yep.
But there's always that opportunity. It's like my analogy that's coming in my head is standing in a ring boxing and you getting your face beat up while you still trying to get the knockout.
Yeah,
Right?
and it's a lot of work. Don't
Right,
think it's
exactly.
easy. But go on.
Yeah, so it's like one of those things where there are wins. A win is a win. A brand
Mhm.
partnership can be, even if it's small in the beginning, the person can make it the grandest thing for
Yeah.
the next opportunity. It's all preparation in a lot of ways. So wanted to know your advice on that.
Oh, so another thing I want to suggest too, if you're going after brand partnerships, get a meeting before you pitch. Too many people just want to go on a brand, hey, this, that, and the other thing. Get that initial meeting to find out what are their pain points? Who is their audience? If you don't do that, you're making an assumption about the brand and you're not even including them in the conversation. Interesting, I mentioned about, yes, I sort of reverse engineered it in that I was blessed to get part of a team that got a big brand. Then I spent time getting local brands. A sponsorship is a sponsorship. Credibility leads to profitability. So if you get a sponsorship and it works out well, another suggestion is if they had a good experience, get them to do a testimonial, preferably video if they can. Do a video testimonial because credibility leads to profitability. Yes, I was blessed to get Dove Men+Care, but I've leveraged that to other conversations because I got credibility out of the gate and it's been for 3 or 4 years. But hey, man, I'm going after the local sponsorships too. Money is money. And plus, when brands, they may be interested and say, hey, he's done this, he's done this, he's done this. They say, okay, this guy's legit. He knows the process. He knows what he's doing. Bang.
Absolutely. And I don't think we lend enough to local and
Absolutely.
regional opportunities. Yes.
Absolutely. You want to start local. Look, I got my chops doing my stuff in people's living rooms, right? I just didn't land to be doing conversations with political leaders and things like that. I got my chops doing it local. So you've got to enjoy the journey and do the process. Very few people just come out of the blocks and just go, wow. They're even international, large performers, actors, it says that have tried to do what you guys are doing and it ain't working. So don't worry, just keep at it and just keep on it. No, and always know that it's bigger than you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And it's preparing you for whatever
Absolutely.
you don't even see.
I'm a firm believer of preparation, practice, and persistence.
There you go. I'll let it simmer there. Appreciate that. So, one of the things that you have done with your platform is successful, it's established, you have proven your worth, your value in many ways over the years. And you just spoke about it, showing up, being intentional about the spaces that you're in, but also not believing that any space is too small for your show up because it is about the people that will be connected and resonate and understand and get you when you get there. So that's really, really cool about your journey. And something I think when we think about aspiring and new content creators or podcasters or impact workers, right? Because
Mhm.
you're doing all of that inside of the work that you're doing. The journey, a lot of folks want it quick, want it easy, want
Mhm.
to move right to the goal. And we get to kind of be with the fact that you might hit a goal immediately, but then that sideline situation could occur, right? When you hit the goal, but your preparation wasn't there, your process isn't there. You might have the big win, but then you get back to earth at some point and you still need to be supported. What would you say to the content creators, the aspiring, the new folks that are coming out now who really are seeing a lot of success,
Mhm.
but we want them to be grounded in the marathon of it all?
Well, the thing is, and most of the people that are quote successful, you probably read their stories. It wasn't overnight. It wasn't overnight. So I would say to new content creators, ask questions. And if you really can, reach out to people who are ahead of you or done it longer than you. Say, can I get 15 minutes of your time? I want to do the best I can in this space. And I look at you as a leader in this space. And can I get 15 or 12 minutes of your time just to ask you some questions? Be humble. Be humble. And if that person says no, move on to the next person. And I'm sure in the show notes for this conversation, my email will be available. I I believe that the biggest leaders are the biggest servers. Don't be afraid to ask questions, really and truly, because you don't know everything. And especially in this game, you don't know everything. It changes by the minute. You don't know everything. But also have those relationships that help is either one email, one video call, one text message away, but also be willing to help that person too if they need help. Make it reciprocal, two-way, two-way. But it still takes work. And just recently, I'm reading a lot how people putting out, oh, I quit YouTube. I quit YouTube. A lot of those posts are coming out. And obviously, it's for some of the people that they thought they'd be making money, etc., and they're not making the money. Like I've diversified what I do with my platform. Yes, I do online conversations. Yes, I do sharing engagements with audiences. Yes, I do. I help accelerate African Canadian entrepreneurs, but it was still the foundation of what I do with my online conversations that have led all those opportunities. Because if you look at it, a very small percentage of podcasters or online show hosts make money from what they do, like profit really well at what they do. So I hope that wasn't too much rolled up
Yeah,
in there.
no,
It was just some
absolutely.
of that stuff.
Yeah, the diversification is so important. The conversation is the loudest inside of the spaces is about monetization. And there is the opportunity to be diverse. You can repurpose audio in so many ways. So much can be built off of it, including a
Mhm.
community, including
Absolutely.
work, different ways in which that same conversation or that same topic or come from can be lent to something else, an organization, people who need to hear it. So it is something that when you get into podcasting, and online shows, there's a responsibility inside of it in a lot of ways to use what you have and to make sure that you are there with, like, as you said, with that why really intact. That why is the foundation. Because if you're doing it the way you intend it, then everything else will come. This is the first
Absolutely.
step. Yeah.
Absolutely. It is a journey. And again, don't do it for yourself. Make sure it's bigger than you. For those who want to monetize, this is what I'm going to suggest. There's an old thing in sales that people buy from the people that they know, like, and trust. I agree with that. And that's another thing with your audience. Make sure you get your audience to know, like, and trust you. And especially these days, lots of brands are not looking for the big communities anymore. They're looking for smaller communities. Why? Because the person that's that head of that community, that audience trusts them. So if they're looking to market a product or service, why not go with a person that's a small audience that they know, like, and trust, that can convert whatever they want, whether it's a message or sales, than someone who's a big star that has 4 or 5 million viewers on whatever platform or 5 million listens, and they're just listening for listening's sake, right? Because it's that person. It's got to be bigger than you. And if it isn't bigger than you, go to Talib. He'll make it bigger than you. I'll make it bigger than you. So that's the thing. So as I say, money funds my mission. It's not my mission.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Looking back on your achievements, including awards and recognitions you received, congratulations. What legacy do you hope to leave for future generations of podcasters, content
Hmm.
creators, particularly those within your own community and the larger Black community?
Well, since you mentioned awards, actually, gotta do it. This is one of the awards I received here. Best Podcast News Award winner 2020, given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. And I also received their Innovation Award in 2018. What I'd like is this, that people say, when I watched, it was worth watching or listening to what he had to share through his audience. He said, even if it was for 20 seconds, that was a good 20 seconds. That's it. And also, too, I believe that every success needs a successor. And I don't know if I'm a success. I've been around a while, maybe crazy and idiot, as we say, but also making sure I'm also looking in generational. So I'm looking for the successor. Actually, someone asked me that the other day saying, what's next? And I said, I'm all in succession planning. Yes, I like and love what I do, but I don't want it to stop with me. So I'm looking for that successor to continue on the conversations, the epic conversations that we have on the platforms that I host and co-produce.
That's awesome. What is that process like for you? And are you in the beginning? Are you in the middle stages of that?
Well, you know what? I'm always looking for talent, always. And if I find someone good who I feel like that can align with what I'm doing, I'll pull them aside and say, hey, you know what? You be interested in doing such and such? Yeah, let's check it out. So I'm always looking to see, always looking for talent. That's another thing. If you're doing what we do here, always keep on looking for good talent, especially on the back end, especially on the back end. Podcasters, online broadcasters, I think y'all want some time back. So always be looking for people who can join your team, who can get you your time back, or they allow you to work on your business, not in your business. Now, I'll be honest. Right now, I'm blessed to have a lot of access to a lot of co-op students and interns. Of all the content I've produced during the year, I only have to edit about 5% of it. You know how much time back I get for that? That allows me to pursue sponsorships and things like that. So we all know, I'm sure we all know, people who are on the audience right now, how much time editing can take. Right?
Oh
So
yeah.
I'm getting that time back. One of my keywords this year is delegate. Like I took it to a level last year, I'm taking it to another level this year to delegate to. Ideally, before I call a day, all I do now is I come in for the show and I leave. Because that's the people who are ahead of me, that's what they do. They just come in, it's done, and they get their time back to do other things. Like, perfect example, Shannon Sharp. Do you think he'd be able to do all that content if he had to produce it himself? No.
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, we can do it. Should we do it?
Yes. Well, you know what? We never going to get our time back. No amount of money can get it back. So time, it like one of my friends, Henri Morris, said a long time ago, time never lost the fight.
That is very true. First time I heard that's a good one. For
There you
sure, for
go.
sure. And time is that currency. And once it's traded, yeah. And I appreciate you reminding us of that because it is really important. How do you envision the role of podcasts and live broadcasters online, as you call them, like yours, in promoting and sustaining the richness of Black culture?
Well, with the advent of so much content going online and the slow reduction of what's being watched on traditional media, I think we have a great opportunity of controlling our own narrative. One of the main reasons I started this is I did not like the narrative of African Canadian men that I was hearing and seeing. So we have a great opportunity to control our narrative and define it for many years to come. That's the way I look at it. That this is a medium where you can control your own narrative. And if you're thinking bigger, control our people's narrative for many, many years to come. So that's one of the things I'm really excited about, that I'm seeing more and more opportunities and chances, opportunities for people to help define our narrative. And also, again, make us laugh, make us cry, make us think, make us groan, educate us, and also entertain us. But let's move in a positive avenue. We're not always going to agree. Absolutely. But let's do the best we can with what we got, because this is a ripe time to be in this space in a lot of areas, and also leveraging it for other opportunities. You know, myself, an example, I shared earlier on the different opportunities that my show has provided me. Again, this engagement I had a few days ago, I asked the person, why did you want me to do this? He goes, I watched your show. Said, I watched your show. I wanted you. And this was from 3 months ago.
Mm. That's awesome. And Dr. Vibe, it speaks to the fact that regarding shaping the narrative for ourselves, right? Because that to me is our first priority in a lot of ways. There's been a lot of opportunity for others to share a narrative about us. And once we start realizing that people like you and me are still the exception and people's perception and minds is not the rule, then it becomes less of a need to try to change minds and more of a need to focus in and say, how do we think and feel about ourselves? Because
Mhm.
that's where we get to start from in a lot of ways. And on top of that, while shaping our own narratives, we're actually laying down this record of our experiences and our perspective, recording it, archiving it, all of those things. And that to me is what's so important about increasing the voices behind this mic and recording it and increasing our listenership as well and our
Yeah.
audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great point there, that unless it gets bombed up, all the content I've done is there forever. Not forever, as long as it's viable. Like from my first conversation to the one I did last Saturday. It's there. It's not going anywhere. So when people say, "Oh, well, there's not really good content coming from African voices in North America," sorry. I like, sometimes there are people that will poo-poo you and be your critics. Sometimes success is the best revenge, right? So you just keep on doing it. And, some people will make it through, some won't, but not everyone's meant to make it. Because if everyone's meant to make it, everyone would be doing it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They say everybody can't go because everybody don't want to go.
Hey,
So,
not some people are just not ready. And
right.
for those who aren't, when they're ready, hopefully we should provide a helping hand to get them going and get them started, because we should not forget where we came from.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. Thank you so much for that as well. Dr. Vibe, your show, your success, what future projects or goals are you most excited about besides delegating?
Well, what I'm excited about, growing a team, growing a permanent team is one of the things I'm excited about. Also, be having the opportunity and the blessing to share what I do and also my story with people out there. I'm very humbled, very, very humbled to get that opportunity to do that. Also, some people say I'm an OG, but being able to see it, to help it nurture and grow in a good way, I'm excited about. As you know, it's not like there's, even if I stop today, I have an archive of content and a lot of it's evergreen. So I'm very blessed to do that. But being able to get in those spaces where I can be a positive light, and be in some spaces where people don't think I should be, and being a positive light, because we always have to make sure that we are getting the best of who we are and what we are, wherever the circumstance and environment are. So there's always more opportunities. I'm more excited now than ever because there's more people doing it and there's more opportunity. And the more you know, the more you need to know. So I'm always curious and always asking, because if I don't ask, I don't know. And a lot of times the information I find out is not only doesn't stay in me, it goes through me. I'm always now several times a day saying, "Oh, this person needs to know that. I need to know, this person needs to know that, this, that, and the other thing." Just putting it out there. What they do with it is up to them, but I don't want anyone saying, "I don't know how," or "I don't know when," or "I don't know how to do an online show or podcast," and say, "Hey, someone's here, been doing it for a while," or "There's another person I can introduce you here." With the amount of conversations I've been blessed to have, there's experts in so many different areas that I can help, especially people who look like me, to help shortcut the shortcut.
That's great. And as I alluded to earlier, but I'm a life coach, and some of the folks that I use as examples, I feel like I'm getting ready to include you into this, Dr. Vibe, because one of the things that I stress a lot is that we have goals, right? And then sometimes we think that goal is that finish line. Once I get there, I've done it, right? But you had the white mic and you had the laptop and you got there and you did it. But you kept going and it just kept
Oh,
expanding. And
never
then you
stop.
met more people that created more expansion and progression and more opportunities coming. People just, we only see ourselves as far as we can see ourselves sometimes. But the opportunity to grow only happens once you step in and once you put that white mic on the table and the laptop.
Yeah, I just tell people, just start. Really, don't make it complicated. You're gonna have challenges along the way. There's so many stories I can share where I've done shows where I forgot to turn my main microphone on. Totally. But I said, that's all right. I'm human. That's okay. You keep on going and you don't quit. Right. And for me, I love what I do. Like I say, it's not hard work anymore. It's hard work. And look at it as an opportunity. And what are you going to do with it? Look at
Right.
it as an opportunity. And there are people out there who will help you get clarity. Talib will do that. I can do that. There's other people. If we're not good enough, we can share you with other. Hey, maybe that's the right person for you. But as I tell people, especially our North American Africans around the world, just want to help you score goals and get wins.
I really appreciate Dr. Vibe. I really love this conversation with you today. And I want you to take the time to mention anything else that you feel like you want to with the audience, promote anything else, and also let people know where they can find you online and social media.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for taking time out of your positive, productive schedule. And when the opportunity to come to do this conversation, I jumped all over it.
I
So,
appreciate it.
one thing, and if there's anything I can do to help amplify the Afros and audio community, don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to ask. I've been
Thank
following
you.
for a while and love the hard work that you and your people are doing. I'm praying that I'll be able to make it to your conference because I'd love to come down there and share some things. I want to shout out two couples. One is Roger and Camille Dundas, who have been lifelong friends, love them dearly, and they run a website called buyblacks.com, and it's Black Canada's #1 online magazine. They are an incredible people. And Roger is my closest friend and closest business associate. And Camille, his wife, is an outstanding Black woman, Black mother, great couple. So I want to shout at them. And also developing now a relationship with Dr. Boyce and Alicia Watkins, who have been great for me. And I've been blessed enough to now share content on one of their platforms. And that's a story in itself, but then maybe that's for another time. But they have now allowed me to share some of my content there on YouTube with their 550,000 subscribers.
That's awesome.
That's just like, wow. And we've never physically met each other, but having that opportunity and how it happened so quickly, but it was all based on relationship and being consistent. You know, Dr. Boy said, I like what you do. Okay, no problem. And short story, after he allowed one of the shows that I host on his platform, about a week later, his wife, Alicia, and himself created this Instagram private chat group with myself and a lady named Dr. Tachi, who's another great African American content creator. And this was a Sunday afternoon. I said, okay, what's going on here? Like, what's up? And basically, they said, oh, would you be available to host a conversation for us that night? Okay. All right. And they asked myself and Dr. Tachi, who has a platform called Indie Soup Media, which is an independent content creators network that people should know about. Her reach, she's got about 30 content creators there and growing, and that reaches over 1 million people. But Dr. Boyce said, hey, want you to host this. So, okay, no problem. Within 15 minutes, there's an agreement sent to us. Sign it. That evening, 7 o'clock, he asked us to interview a gentleman. He comes on for 2 or 3 minutes and say, you know, guys, I ain't going to be on for a long period of time because these two people here, I trust them. They're at the top of their game. You're good with them. Wow. Wow. So you never know who's listening, who's watching. You never know. So I want to encourage people. You not only need to have your podcasts, people that are good at podcasting, you need to have people who are just everyday people who can support you. And if you have a bad day, you can reach out to somebody. It's very, very important because if you're not feeling good, people are going to be able to check that out. They'll be able to feel you out. Even if it's audio only, they'll be say, oh, Dr. Vibe's a little bit off today. What's
Mhm.
going on? So have that community, or I like to call it, have that constellation of people that are going to be with you, especially when things aren't going great. Right? Because if you look, family, I don't got a whole pile of followers. Like I got a total, yeah, some thousands of followers on different platforms, but I'm still here. I'm still here. I got 3 brand deals. I'm still here. Not to brag upon myself, but again, too, people, when it comes to sponsorship, I know people personally who got sponsorships based on an idea. It wasn't even a finished product yet. So don't be afraid to shoot your shot, no matter where you are. No matter where you are, if you're in that environment. And also, one other tip, keep your stuff on your phone. And people will say, why are you saying that, Dr. Vibe? I said, well, most of us have a phone. You never know who you're going to meet. And they say, hey, What do you do? Oh, well, I do this show, that show. You want to see me in action? Visual is such a big game. Just don't use visual for social, use it for business. I could go on and on but I'll stop there.
I love that advice. And before you say how people can
Oh,
find
yes.
you,
Sorry about that.
yeah, no, it's okay. I love that you injected that into this conversation because there is a lot of distraction out there.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it is deliberate. It keeps you off your game and knocks you off your square, and it doesn't allow you to focus on the opportunities that you can, one, create for yourself, but also that in building that, people recognize that you are here and you are in it to win it. You're not just playing this game to get by or to eventually fall off the board, but you're playing to win. And that is super important. And if nothing else, validate you for yourself and keep you out of these numbers games that, just like anything, it's about credential. It's about this to make you say, well, if I don't have that, then I won't even shoot my shot
Yeah.
because they say you're supposed to have this in order to do it. Or they say I have to be here in order to,
So,
and it's all bogus.
yeah. Yeah.
Listen to Dr. Vibe.
Yeah. And I want to share that just don't do it for you. Each platform that I host, it's for that audience. When I do the stuff for Dove Men+Care, it's for fathers. When I do stuff for the Dr. Vibe show, it's for Africans all around the world. It's got to be bigger than you. Because if you just think it's for you, you're going to get bogged down so bad, so heavy. It's got to be bigger than you. And that's just me speaking because all the blessings I've had doing this, it's impacted at least one other person. Or I
Absolutely.
made sure it's impacted someone other than me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of my philosophies, Dr. Vibe. Greatness is not about us, right? And the sooner we figure that out, the sooner other people can have the possibility of us showing up. And it's so important to recognize because we get stuck in and we center ourselves so often, but there are people who need to hear from us and see us. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because remember, most things start with duplication, right? They see someone doing something, go, hey, I'd like to do that. So people want to do, and then you just put your spin on it and find out what isn't being done out there. And that's where you drive it home.
There you go. So thank you very much. Please tell people how they can find you all over.
Oh, one last quick thing,
Sure.
especially for the new people that are starting out there. When you start off, the best marketing you have is your story. You may think you got nothing. You got you. You got your story, right? You got you. So don't think you're coming to the game with nothing. You have past successes that you've achieved that have put you here. So don't think you come to this space with nothing. You've been successful in other areas. So there's no reason you can't be successful here.
Yeah. Yeah. We've been socialized to be in this. It's just me. It's only me. Conditioning, but that's enough in a lot of ways.
Yeah, well, don't worry about what you don't have because what you have is good enough.
There you go. Thank
So
you.
where you can contact me, easiest place is the website, the DRVIBESHOW.com, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, the space DR period, VIBE space SHOW.com, on Twitter, or sorry, X at DRVIBESHOW, and then the Instagram at the DRVIBESHOW.com, and email address DR period VIBE at the DRVIBESHOW.com. And as always, don't just manage your time, manage your energy, and remember to give yourselves grace. And please feel free to reach out, even if you just want to have a chat. Stick me with a fork. I'm done.
All right. Well, thank you so much. This has been a great conversation. Truly, like I said at the top of this, I've been looking forward to this conversation and I'm glad that we finally had it. So
Thank
thank
you
you.
so much. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
All right, I'm going to close this out. I want to give a big thanks to our Afros and Audio and Black Podcasters Association members for supporting our commitment for community and collaboration. If you'd like to join the Black Podcasters Association, the link will be in the description. And if you want to join us at the 6th Annual Afros and Audio Podcast Festival, visit afrosanaudio.com. Follow at Afros and Audio on all social media channels, and you can find and follow me at Talib Jasir on Instagram. Thanks again, Dr. Vibe, for being a part of Afros and Audio's Black History Month interview series. It's been a pleasure, sir.
Right back at you. And I'm here. I'm a lifer.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.